Dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all let me introduce myself. My name is Gergely Lukács and I come from Hungary and I am the tuba player of the Ostravská banda. The piece that I would like to play you is a very new and interesting piece which was written by Gerard Buquet, and it was written for the first international tuba competition in Geneva, which was held in this January. Gerard Buquet is one of the most well-known modern music specialists of the tubist world. He played with such great musicians like Pierre Boulez. He teaches contemporary music at the University of Karlsruhe, and the title of his piece is Con Voce. Gerard said about his music: I wanted to present and share a contemporary music language that which has enriched my musical career, that which refers to three important composers of the second half of the 20th century to whom I wish to pay tribute: Helmut Lanchmann, Gerard and Pierre Boulez. These composers have helped to expand the playing techniques and repertoire of the tuba. I think that this piece is one of the most challenging and engrossing pieces of the tuba repertoire. It contains many different types of sound that you can make with the tuba. For example, singing into the tuba while you push down only the half of the valves. I hope all of you will like it. Please enjoy this masterpiece.
Hello, my name is William Lang, and I am a Brooklyn-based trombonist who plays every summer or every other summer with a group of like-minded musicians called the Ostravská banda. It's a collection of European and American soloists who have a specialty in new music and get together under the direction of Peter Kotick and his wonderful staff in order to do a 2-week festival of new pieces for orchestra, chamber ensemble, and solo with young composers and a lot of living composers, as well as some great classics of the avant-garde. Sadly, this summer the festival won't be happening, so we've decided to get together a bunch of solo pieces and performances for you at home to enjoy during this crazy time. I would really like to present a work by a composer that's really near and dear to my heart. The Greek composer Iannis Xenakis wrote his solo piece for trombone Keren in 1986. It's a little bit further into his career, and I feel like it synthesizes a lot of his ideas about music, and it also speaks a little bit to his own personal story. So Xenakis was famous for bringing mathematical principles from the 20th century into his music, and sometimes he gets this reputation for being kind of a cold or a harsh composer, but to me, I don't think that can be further from the truth. I hear a lot of melodic writing in this piece compared to a lot of other Xenakis works. And if I can just conjecture for a moment about where that comes from, I find Xenakis himself to be a man of dualities after reading biographies of him and interviews with him. He was a war hero, he was an architect, he was a musician, he used to be a very handsome younger man who had half of his face scarred due to a bomb in World War II. He was very proudly Greek, but he was sentenced to death by his own government for being part of the rebellion coalition in World War II. And he was an architect but felt the pull to become a musician and had to navigate all these different worlds. I feel like Xenakis' idea in this piece of giving you melody and then taking it away, or giving you these mathematical principles that represent kind of his entire career arc, and then interrupting them with these soaring, high, beautiful lines, speaks a lot to his totality of experience and how he really embodies what being a person meant in the mid-1900s. So Xenakis' solo Keren. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. I first met Kamala Sankaram while working with Peter Kotick's Brooklyn-based group, the SEM Ensemble. And I met her first as a new music soprano. One performance that stands out in particular is we performed Peter Kotick's Many, Many Women in up to 6-hour complete setting of a Gertrude Stein novella for 3 duos of singers and 3 duos of instrumentalists together. And I was always impressed by her professionalism and musicianship, as well as just a pure, beautiful sound that she creates when she sings. I next got to know Kamala as an operatic soprano, which is normally a really different skill set of singing. At the Nodo Festival in Ostrava, I saw her perform a couple of different operas, and I was just blown away that she had a voice that was both nimble enough for new music and powerful enough to fill a whole hall in an opera stage setting. And then later on, I had a surprise when I realized that Kamala was also a world-class composer. I had no idea at first. Some highlights of hers is she wrote the world's first VR, or virtual reality opera, which I don't even know how to start thinking about that. And it's super cool, though. And actually, during this summer pandemic, she wrote what is probably the world's first Zoom opera as well. So Kamala is just a really great overall musician. She's a beautiful performer, and she's a talented composer who can work really quickly and beautifully all at the same time. It's just really impressive. I had an idea a few years ago during one of my commissioning phases where I asked Kamala if she would write a piece for solo trombone. And thankfully she said yes. She came back a little while later with a piece called The Hum. It's based off of the sound of the electrical grid that's underlying New York City, and indeed most of the cities in the world now, although the sound of the pitch generally changes depending on what type of current you're using. And it references other New York City sounds. There's like a wild slide glissando that kind of represents the idea of radiation on Long Island, which is where I'm from and maybe explains why I'm weird. And if you've ever been to New York and taken the subway, you might recognize the door chimes. You might hear this interval. And that represents the sound of the subway doors right before they close. So this is Kamala Sankaram's The Hum. Thank you.
Thank you.